with those developments in the search for Lonzie Barton. JSO Sheriff Mike Williams, who saw there, announced this afternoon that remains found on the Southside are strongly believed to be those of the little boy.
This is the area now that Ebron led investigators to. We're told he actually went with JSO to this area himself. It's in the Bayard area on the south side. This is near Phillips Highway. First Coast News anchor Heather Crawford joins us where there is a growing memorial there tonight. Heather?
That's right, Jeannie. We are on the south side, about 9 miles away from the Raven Woods apartment complex. That is where last July, Reuben Ebron reported little Lonzie missing. And I want to show you all these signs. There's flowers, stuffed animals, balloons, all that have been put here in front of the crime scene tape in memory of that 21-month-old little boy. Now, JSO Chief Tom Hackney, early on in this investigation, said that Reuben Ebron was the prime suspect in Lonzie's disappearance. I asked him this afternoon if that is still the case, and he said yes, it is still the case. In fact, JSO says that Ebron actually helped lead police here to the spot where Lonzie's remains are believed to have been found. Now, it has been a very emotional day for Lonzie's loved ones and for so many in this community who have followed this case and Lonzie's disappearance so closely. We expected Ebron to go to trial today, as did most of the community. That trial on child neglect and lying to police charges was delayed. And then late this afternoon, the confirmation from the Jacksonville sheriff that the remains believed to be Lonzie Barton found in a wooded area on Jacksonville's south side. And I spoke with Lonzie's cousin today. She spent hours out here at the scene. She heard about the discovery, came here, and she is understandably very emotional tonight.
Jail's too good for him for taking that baby's life. Jail's too good for anybody who took that baby's life. But whatever they get, they deserve, believe me.
And Chief Hackney points out that this is what he says is just the first step in justice. The work is continuing. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office has been working this case since Lonzie disappeared. There were more than initially 38 agencies involved in the search to find Lonzie. And then there were countless people in the community who formed their own private search teams and went out weekend after weekend after weekend. I talked to one searcher who just this morning was just a few blocks away from where we are today looking for Lonzie. So in a sense, a bit of closure, but still it is a sad day, as Chief Hackney said, but it is the first step in justice for Lonzie Barton. That's the latest here on the south side. We're going to continue our team coverage tonight on First Coast News at 11, but for now we'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, and we will see you tonight at 11, Heather. Thanks. And the man at the center of the investigation, really since Lonzie disappeared, is Reuben Ebron. And JSO has been investigating the area near Snyder Street in the Bayard neighborhood since about 10:30 last night. The discovery of remains took place on the same day. Trial for Ebron was supposed to start, then delayed after his attorney waived his right to a speedy trial. Now, court is over for the day. No plea arrangement in place. And here's what we know at this hour. It's been 149 days since this search began. The body was found, or remains were found, in the woods today after investigators say Ebron led them to that area. And the case is just beginning. JSO says this is very early still in the investigation.
And our team coverage continues with the latest courthouse developments today, and there were many. There were talks between the prosecution and defense today as Reuben Ebron appeared in court.
First Coast News' Brittany Dion has been staked out there at the court all day long and has the latest for you there.
You could hear a pin drop inside of the courtroom today as we all waited for Reuben Ebron to make an appearance and accept a plea deal. That never happened. His parents were inside of that courtroom. They have been by his side throughout this entire ordeal. I spoke to his mother and his father shortly after court was cleared this afternoon. His father says that he just wants his son to tell the truth. His mother says that she's tired. She doesn't have any details about a plea deal. Again, his father says that he just wants his son to tell the truth. Take a listen.
My son is not a baby killer. I don't know about a plea deal. I have no further comments.
Coming up, we spoke to an expert about what's ahead for this case. We'll have that on First Coast News at 11. Reporting at the Duval County Courthouse, Brittany Dion, First Coast News, NBC 12, ABC 25.
Brittany, thank you so much. Now, tonight we have new information into our newsroom about why a potential plea agreement for Reuben Ebron was put on hold this afternoon. Investigative reporter Ann Schindler joins us with more, and it came out today that there would be a plea agreement, aggravated manslaughter, and then that all seemed to get squashed.
Yeah, it did. It all disappeared. And what we've learned tonight is that the defense and the state were in pretty much complete agreement about the terms of the deal. What was the sticking point was the judge himself. What we've learned is that Judge Mark Borrello, who's himself a former prosecutor, has total discretion over any plea negotiation. He chose not to co-sign the deal today, preferring to wait until two key pieces of information are available. One, the one thing that he wants to be certain happens is that the remains today are indeed those of Lonzie Barton. And two, he wants to make sure that the manner of death is something other than a vicious homicide. Now, given the conditions of the remains, it's unlikely that an autopsy could determine the means or the manner of death. And if that's the case, sources tell First Coast News the judge will likely sign off on the plea deal. However, if the cause of death is determined to be particularly vicious or cruel, sources say the judge would not be content with the proposed deal. And so as we reported earlier today, that proposal would likely allow Ruben Ibran to plead guilty to aggravated manslaughter in exchange for a sentence of somewhere in the range of 15 to 20 years.
And so sources are saying that they're going to revisit this deal in about 2 weeks, but a few things will go on between now and the 2 week deal.
That's right. Tuesday, there's the next hearing on motions in the case. And in 2 weeks, I guess they're going to go back to the judge and make sure that he's satisfied with the conditions that he's set forward. And then presumably he'll accept the deal.
All right. Thank you very much, Ann. Shannon?
Johnson, our legal analyst, is back here with us. And, you know, and I guess when you stop to think about it, it sounds like it was prudent for the judge to do this because they don't have 100% certainty that this is him.
Right.
And they don't know cause of death.
Right. You know, and there are a lot of clues that this is what happened. Even when I was in the courtroom, they spent a lot more time in chambers with the judge than they did going back and talking to the defendant. And the judge, you know, there's no harm in waiting. I'm sure that's his philosophy. From a defense attorney standpoint, you know, the one risk, and I guess it's not really a risk, but the defendant could change his mind. He has not entered a plea and the judge hasn't accepted it. So that's one piece that could fall apart, but it's kind of consistent with what Angela Corey said. We are waiting for more information from Dr. Rao, and that the judge has to accept these plea negotiations, and he wouldn't do that today.
So did it seem at all like the prosecution? Well, I guess once the judge sort of tapped the brakes on this, you wonder, well, why did the prosecution try to rush in there? But you're saying, well,
you know, and he was a homicide prosecutor, Judge Burrow, so he, you know, might be thinking, look, first of all, I have to say on the record that I find there is a factual basis for this plea. That's a quote of what the judge is going to have to say when the plea is entered. And today, he probably doesn't think he could say that because he doesn't know that the body is the person presumed to be, and he also doesn't know that there was, you know, a cause of death that could be either linked to the defendant, which he has to do to be fair to the defendant, or that waiving the death penalty is the right thing to do for the family. He has to balance that.
So time-wise, and this is speculative because we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but what does happen next and in what time?
Well, the next court date is set for a pretrial because I'm assuming that they don't know that Dr. Rao, who's doing the autopsy, that she's going to have her findings yet. And if she doesn't have her findings, the judge won't have the information he needs.
He'll have the same place he is today.
Exactly.
All right,
exactly.
Very good. Janet Johnson, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it every time. Jeannie?
Now, a woman who says she's the distant relative of Lana Barton showed up at the JSO search site on the Southside today, and she appeared tearful, but she says she does now have closure.
In the beginning, I had a lot of hope he would be found. And now, I mean, for the last months and months, I've been preparing myself that, you know, we wasn't going to find him alive at all. And I prayed we'd find him. He never gave up hope.
Very hard day for a lot of folks. State Attorney Angela Corey says since Ibran waived the right to a speedy trial, the court granted a continuance today. This will now set into motion a series of events which will happen in the courtroom as we're talking about over the next few weeks.
And still ahead tonight, a lane change on I-95 leads to all kinds of problems during the morning commute, as you probably know. Jason Rantala has what you need to know to avoid the problems in the future. This is the Overland Bridge project. Also, Powerball madness continues. Just how big the jackpot is tonight.